Welcome everyone to the second devlog for... If you didn't catch the first devlog, I am bringing My Hero Academia to Minecraft. And I'm doing that using the Palladium mod, which is a Minecraft Forge and Fabric mod that allows you to add in custom superpowers and abilities into the game pretty easily. Last week, I showed off some of the main systems that I implemented and one of the first quirks that I have implemented, but this time we have a few things to go over. For one, I have a couple of bug fixes to go over. We have an update to an existing mechanic and one brand new mechanic. And I've updated the previous quirk that we've done and implemented 2 new quirks. It's going to be pretty cool, so make sure you subscribe and watch to the end. By the way, I'm also adding my Discord to the link in the description. If you guys want to get early teasers and just discuss with me and provide suggestions about this add-on, go ahead and join that and get the teasers roll in the Discord, and you'll get to see sneak peeks. You'll get to provide suggestions, all that sort of fun stuff. So links down below. All right, that's enough. Let's get into it. So the first thing is that stamina upgrades are now actually persistent. So if you remember in the last video, I had these stamina training upgrades here that actually increased your stamina capacity. And then when you reloaded the mod using /reload or joined and logged back in, it would actually give you those again and again and again, basically duping stamina. That will no longer happen. The other 2 bug fixes were actually for the smoke screen quirk. So first of all, the smoke cloud ability would reset our energy bar. It decreased your max value, which shouldn't have done that. And the smoke charge also works on the first try. You don't really need to know too much about that, but basically I missed a single line of code and it made it not work the first time, but it does now. But those are general bug fixes. I'm sure in the future I'll have a lot more bugs to actually fix and they'll go on this wall here. But we do have 2 new mechanics, or one old mechanic that I updated and a brand new mechanic, which is going to be pretty exciting. But let's just first look at the updated quirk here, smoke screen specifically. The first thing that I changed was that the smoke cloud ability now actually takes stamina. So if I hold this down and let it go, our stamina bar actually moves down. Before I totally forgot to actually make it do that. The next thing is that there was a change to the capacity upgrades. So before, the capacity upgrades weren't really clear on how much they affected your smoke cloud ability. So if I hold this and charge it all the way up, you'll see what I mean. We're maxed out at all 3 upgrades, and that gives us up to 25% of our max power. Each one of these capacity upgrades allows you to increase the smoke cloud up to 25%. So 25% max, 50% max, and 75% max. And I've also added this new upgrade for capacity 4. This one you can unlock, however, it stays locked right here, and you can see it says requires awakened quirk. That means now and in the future, you're going to actually have to evolve your quirk using the base quirk stats here. So you're going to have to unlock all of these and get to quirk evolve. If you remember, that increases your quirk factor, but it's now also going to give you access to new upgrades in the future. So once you have that, you can actually upgrade to capacity 4, and that will allow you to reach the 100% full power on the smoke cloud. The next change to smoke screen you may have already noticed, but if I use the smoke cloud and let it go, not only does it become locked for a short amount of time, I think it's 5 seconds. Basically, I don't want people to be spamming their smoke cloud ability, and doing this and giving it a cooldown like this means that you can't actually spam it. Before, you could spam it and get infinite upgrade points and just blind everyone forever. That's kind of annoying. So I got rid of that. You now have to have it cool down before you can use it again. The next change to smoke screen is the smoke aura, and it actually now takes stamina. So you can see the stamina bar is going down. The chance that it uses a stamina is a little random, and it's a small random chance. When that chance happens, you will lose a bit of your stamina, as we can see the bar going down. The reason for this change is that I just didn't want people to have this on all the time. Since it is a dodge, they should have some sort of penalty for using it, and that's going to be the stamina. Also, the different modes of smoke aura do actually take more stamina, so you do have a trade-off when it comes to getting a higher dodge chance. You're going to use a little bit more stamina. I did do a little reorganization of the tree here. For the capacity and production were requirements to this here, the smoke immunity, and the smoke immunity was the requirement to get the rest of these abilities in the middle path. I've changed it now so that it is still reliant on production and capacity 1 over here. However, the smoke stream and all of these abilities are not actually required to have smoke immunity. So this is going to be a more expensive upgrade, which is why I didn't want to lock the rest of the quirk away, which is the reason for this change here. And the last change I did for smoke screen here was change this ability right here. I got a lot of comments saying that you didn't really like the signal flare ability because it did just kind of shoot straight up. And there was lots of comments on different things to change, and so I came up with a new solution. Instead of signal flare, it is now called signal bazooka. Fire an explosive smoke ray in the direction you're looking, creates a particle trail and explodes on impact, blinding and damaging enemies. Range and power scale with quirk factor. That's right, it is no longer a janky flare, it is actually a offensive ability. It's attached to the 1 key for me, so I'm just going to look up in the air and fire 1, and you can see it shoots off a stream with a firework explosion there, and it also used quite a bit of stamina. The reason it used so much stamina is because it does quite a bit of damage. So let's take this dummy here and let's fire at him to see what it does. There we go, 9.1 damage from that, and it gave him slowness 4, blindness 2, and weakness 2. I might tweak those abilities just a little bit, but the signal bazooka does do a cooldown, and it uses quite a bit of stamina, so hopefully that makes it not as spammy. The one cool thing that I like about the bazooka is that it is an actual area of effect. So if I fire this here, everyone around actually gets damage, and you can see the ones on the edge here don't get as affected as the one that is directly hit with the bazooka. The reason I did that is for just a little bit of balancing. If you directly hit someone with the missile, they're going to take the brunt of the effect, but if you miss them, it's still going to do at least a little bit, albeit a decreased amount of damage and a decreased amount of status effects. Also, this does scale with quirk factor, so if I came over here to my nice little box here and scaled this guy up to 5. Now if I fire the signal bazooka at them, you can see it does 15 damage around to the side ones. It doesn't increase the level of slowness, blindness, and weakness, but it does increase the length and duration. Okay, it did 19 damage to the direct hit. So this just shows the importance of getting such a high quirk factor because it just makes you so much stronger. Also, the quirk factor increases the range, so this is how far it goes with the essentially maxed out quirk factor, but we can increase the quirk factor as high as we want. But we'll see that in upcoming devlogs. All right, those are all of the changes for the smoke screen. So let's talk about some of the new mechanics. So I've updated the exhaustion system. If you remember in the last video, I debuted the stamina system, and it came with an exhaustion system to allow you to essentially go beyond your limits. If I look here, we see I do not have the plus ultra tag. If you remember from the last devlog, the plus ultra status allows you to exceed your limits and go beyond the current stamina system. So right now, if I don't have it and I use my stamina, and I actually have just barely enough, so let's just drain the stamina completely. There we go. As soon as I run out of stamina, I get this message saying that it's pushed beyond my limits and my powers are disabled from overexertion. I no longer get nausea, which is good. I just have slowness 2, or I guess I was slowness 3. So I've set my actual stamina as a scoreboard over here so you can kind of visualize what's going on here. Basically, as I use my stamina and it goes down, we'll see that it drops below 0. Being below 0 is what gives your body the actual side effects. So that's where I'm getting the slowness 3 from. It's because my stamina value is below 0. But once it hits 0 and goes up above that, my body recovers, but my quirk does not. The quirk will re-enable itself once you get to a certain percentage of your actual full max stamina. And I think that's a 2%, 2 or 3% stamina. Why am I doing this, you may ask? Well, the reason is people could just spam their stamina as soon as it recovers. So it could flicker between -1 and once it recovers here in a couple of seconds, then they would technically be able to use their stamina again, which I didn't really want them to be able to do. Putting this little cooldown essentially just kind of incentivizes you from not using all of your stamina. The next change to the exhaustion is that you can actually go well below your exhaustion level even without plus ultra. If I fire off the signal bazooka, which uses about 200 stamina, you can see we have quite a bit of negative effects, and I'm actually in the full level of exhaustion here. Weakness 2, mining fatigue, hunger, wither 5, and slowness 5. I also have these particle effects here and I can't really move at all. Also, you can't do damage in this state. You're just very, very weak. If I had plus ultra, this low of stamina would be my last hurrah, or my one final attack. However, I do not have plus ultra, as you saw before, and if I was in survival mode, eventually this would kill me from the Wither 5. The reason for this is, once again, incentive for you to not go below your stamina. If I just willy-nilly start spraying signal bazookas everywhere and put myself down to completely exhaust or break my body, then, you know, there's going to be consequences to that. The other thing about this is that the lower and more exhausted you are, the slower that the stamina actually recovers. So if you look on my right side, we only just barely got 1 stamina recovered. So once you're at this point, you're not technically meant to survive it. That's why I gave you Wither 5. But even if you were to survive, you're gonna have to spend quite a long time with all of these side effects because you essentially ruined your body and it's taking some time to recover. Eventually, there'll be some quirks in the future that will help speed up this recovery process, i.e. recovery girl. But until then, you're just gonna have to sit with these negative side effects. Let me give myself plus ultra here so I can actually go beyond my limits. Plus ultra allows you, again, to go beyond your limits and ignore the power dampening effect of exhaustion. If I activate my smoke aura here to use some stamina, we'll see the different levels of exhaustion in play. So here's the first one. We get slowness 3 when you're feeling winded. Then we get your body is struggling, and we can see pushing through our exhaustion harms our body. So the way that this works is we're at exhaustion level 2. We have weakness, hunger, and slowness 4. So we're very slow and we do quite a bit less damage. In fact, we actually don't do any damage with our fist because we're that weak. You have to have a sword in your hand in order to actually do any sort of damage to any entities, and even then it's still very, very low. Pushing through exhaustion harms your body. If I wasn't in creative mode, we would see that continuously using the stamina actually does a little bit of damage as well. So even though you have plus ultra, you're still not completely protected from the exhaustion effects. What it allows you to do, though, is just get to the max level of exhaustion and use the ability there. So let's actually use this and drain our stamina a little more. There we go. This is level 3 of exhaustion. We have weakness 2, mining fatigue 3, hunger 3, and slowness 5. Even with a sword, we're not going to do any punching damage. So what's the point of going down here? Well, you can still use all of your abilities, and ones that aren't direct punches will still do damage. But there we go. We just hit the final level of exhaustion. This is your final stand. Quirk factor multiplied by 2. Danger, next use is fatal. That means that our quirk factor is going to be multiplied. So right now our quirk factor is 5. Whenever I use an attack that actually uses my quirk factor, it's going to double it to 10 when I'm in this form. So the signal bazooka here, let's just fire it. There we go. That did 15 to the side, and I didn't even see how much it did to the middle guy there, but it's essentially equivalent to setting my quirk factor to 10 and then firing it off. So we can do that. And actually, it seems like that didn't work because these guys got 30 damage and this did not. Definitely a bug. I'll fix that real quick. I think the quirk factor is just getting a little confused because I'm trying to set it here and it's actually conflicting with my base quirk here, which is technically a quirk factor of 0. But either way, once you get to the final exhaustion level and you're doing plus ultra, your abilities should be a lot stronger for one last stand. It does run the /kill command, which kills you in creative, which I probably shouldn't actually have that as a feature. Probably not a good idea. And one last thing, you can actually see I have the max level of exhaustion thanks to these particles here, but I don't have any of the negative side effects. The reason for that is because I have plus ultra enabled. And when you have plus ultra enabled, it means that the 4th level or final level of exhaustion, all of the negative side effects are actually just erased. The reason for this is, again, once you use any sort of stamina at all, you're going to die no matter what you do. And so it's just giving you one last chance to run around and use your abilities. Also, if your ability is a punch related ability, this gets rid of all of the weakness and stuff, so you can actually do damage with that final hit instead of, not being able to. Plus ultra does not delete any of the other exhaustion level effects, so once I recover enough stamina to fall back down into exhaustion level 3 instead of exhaustion 4, I will get all of the negative side effects back. So it's only this final form essentially that you get protected. All right, so that is all of the changes to the exhaustion system. If I explained it a little more confusing, go ahead and join my Discord and ask questions about it and I can explain better. Anyway, we we have another new mechanic called body breaking, and I'm not going to go into this one just yet because we're going to look at the quirks first. We've already gone over the smokescreen changes, but we have implemented 2 new quirks, question mark? It's actually only 1 quirk and 1 concept of a quirk. And those 2 are, drumroll please, Quirk Transfer and Decay. I actually teased Decay inside of my Discord. Once again, you should join that. Okay, I'll stop. Anyway, we've got 2 new abilities, Quirk Transfer and Decay. Quirk Transfer is the work in progress one, and I'll show you that at the end, so make sure you stay. But Decay is one that's pretty close to finish. It still needs some work, but let's see what it's got so far. This one actually took me quite a lot longer than I was expecting, which is why there's really only 1, I guess, finished quirk in this devlog. Starting off, I guess let's just look at the upgrade tree. Starting here, we have the Decay quirk, a terrifying quirk that allows you to disintegrate anything you touch, but beware, without proper control, this power will destroy everything around you, including your own belongings. Master your instability to unlock devastating techniques. Then from here we have 3 things that are already unlocked. The first one is Unstable Decay. Your power is completely unstable. Items in your inventory periodically decay, and your touch destroys things unpredictably. So what does that mean exactly? If I go ahead and put on a full set of armor, you can actually just see right there, we already lost that. Oh, every so often we get this little particle effect around us, and that indicates that something on us is attempting to decay. So it's random what it's going to decay. However, it is going to only focus on armor slots, your main hand, and your offhand. So if you see it go off and it doesn't do anything, that most likely means it is attempting to do like pants that don't exist. So already off the bat, we have lost our pants, our boots, and oh, there goes our chest plate. Yep, and there goes our hat. All we have left is our trusty shovel here. Let's switch to some iron armor because this isn't an insta-destroy of things. It is more a slight damage that just happens to be a lot for leather armor to handle. And remember, this process is completely random when it triggers, so you're not going to actually know when it's going to happen. This is just one of the side effects or downsides to having one of the most powerful quirks in the game. And that actually just broke the iron shovel, and it broke the iron... Oh, I know why. It's because their quirk factor is so high. It's not supposed to be 10 normally. It's supposed to be 1 or 0. That's why it's insta-destroying everything. So yes, this effect does actually scale with your quirk factors. There we go. It looks like it is taking about 60 damage durability randomly. It decays there. So this is just the base level of the quirk. So there are upgrades to make this unstable effect a lot weaker, which is pretty good because the fact that it chews through your armor like this is definitely not fun. It's to help balance out the fact that this power is pretty OP. Let's actually take a look here at our next one, which is Decaying Touch. Focus your decay on the entity that you are touching. This decay will prioritize destroying armor before destroying the body. If I hit the 4 key, it actually toggles on our decay hit. And now when we hit things, we can see we give them the decay effect for a little bit. So that's doing a little bit of damage. So it looks like an extra of 5 damage here, or 5 or 6 damage after 2 ticks. This is a custom effect that I have coded myself. So that means I was able to add in some cool little features to it. So if I remove the decay power and hop into survival mode and give myself the decay effect, there we go, I have Decay 2 here, and you can see my armor is actually decaying away as the effect is going. And I'm not taking any damage until the point where all of my armor actually decays away. Then that's when I actually start taking some damage. There's also a cool effect when you get below 33% health because of this decay. And we'll see it here. There we go. I just lost an arm. I lost another one of my legs. And there we go. I actually died. And it looks like I forgot to code the thing that brings back all of your limbs. Let me fix that real quick. As you saw there, my actual body parts were decaying away, and that kind of goes into the body breaking mechanic that I've actually implemented. Behind the scenes, the way that it works is that every player and some entities will have a new power in the background. If I were to query my powers right now, you see I have the Mine HA base quirk, and I also have the body status power. Both of these, by the way, now actually show up to anyone who joined the game for the first time, but the body status is one that doesn't actually show up here as one of the quirks. It's just something that happens behind the scenes to allow me to apply effects based on the missing body parts to all of the players at the same time. This streamlines it a bit so that I can have different effects based on if people's limbs are missing, and also have them affect the powers as well. To better visualize this, I've actually added in a command called mineHA_break, and this allows you to type in an entity, and it allows you to break a lot of your different body parts. For now, it's just arms and legs, but for example, I can get rid of my off arm here, and there we go, it just breaks away. There's no effect when you do it like that, like there is with the Decay, but you can see my arm is missing. Now, there's no side effects for your off arm being missing, because honestly, if you're right-handed and you lose your left arm, it's not really going to affect you too much. I mean, look at this. Your right arm is the only one that ever actually does anything. Let me break instead the main arm, and you can see some of the effects that we actually start to have. So right there, we lost our main arm, and it has actually switched our other arm to the view screen. Now, this one doesn't actually move, unfortunately, which is really kind of sad. And maybe I'll find a way to fix that in the future. I don't know, but we can still mine and dig things, but you can see it's really slow. That's because we have weakness and mining fatigue, because we've lost our main arm. We were right-handed and we lost our right hand. Now we have to do everything with our left arm, and it just sucks. It looks a little dumb. I'll try to fix it so that it switches hands, but no promises on that one. I can actually break both my arms, so if I get rid of the off arm too, we have no arms here, and we can't do any damage. We can't mine anything. We have mining fatigue 5 and weakness 5, because it makes sense without any arms, you can't really do anything related to arms. Let me heal both of our arms. There we go. And the effects go away. We're back to normal. And let's take a look at breaking our legs. Right now, if you lose one leg, nothing happens. Once again, I probably should give you some sort of slowness, but you can break both of the legs here. And when this happens, I actually had a custom animation. Are you ready for this? Oh, all right. I think I might have fixed it. Let's try to break both legs and see my animation. There we go. We lost both our legs, and then we fall onto the floor. In this form, you can't jump, and I'm also pretty slow, slowness 3, because I gotta crawl around. So you can actually lunge a little bit, so crawl forward, but you're not going to be jumping up and down any blocks. So the whole reason I implemented this was because of the Decay, and I wanted the Decay to be useful other than just, insta-killing. This allows Decay to severely damage people whenever they're stricken with the effect. You will also notice there is a bar that is going up on the right side. This is not a stamina bar, this is the instability bar. If you ever seen My Hero Academia, you know that Shigaraki, when using his Decay, at first, if he uses it a lot, he starts to get damaged himself. And so I kind of wanted to replicate that a little bit using this instability system. The way that it works, as you'll see, is if you are maxed out on that bar, you will have a side effect, and that side effect is going to be pretty dramatic. Let's see here for 1 second. There we go. We've maxed out that, and you can see we actually lost our arm. It's gotten rid of our main arm, so we have the weakness and mining fatigue effect, but we still have our offhand. Not only that, we can still also use our abilities here. So I'm just going to go ahead and max out the instability one more time, and you can see there's going to be a little more of a side effect with this next time. There we go. We've actually decayed our other arm. Since Shigaraki needs one of his hands to use the power, I've made it so that if you don't have any of your hands, you can't use your power. This is one of the reasons I also added the body breaking mechanic, so that now powers can be dependent on body parts. So powers that require hands like overhaul or decay, those will no longer work if you don't actually have the hands. Right now, there's no way in the game to actually heal your body parts except by dying or using the heal command. And that is just mineHA_heal and whatever you want to heal. So in this case, both arms. There we go, and my powers have come back because I actually have hands. Now, this is getting a little long, I fear, so let's try to speed it up a little bit. Our next one is Environment Decay Single. So what does this do, you may ask? Well, let me just walk on up to a block, specifically a spruce block or a wood block here, and let me just use that. There we go, it just decayed. Now, this doesn't seem like a lot, but you're just learning to use your powers, so it makes sense that you can only do a little bit at a time. This decay really just does one block, and it doesn't actually work on all blocks. It works on grass, but if I come down here, there we go. It doesn't work on the stone or the diorite. The reason this one doesn't work on harder stones is because the intensity of the decay is not high enough. The intensity is kind of corresponding to your quirk factor. So if I increase my quirk factor to 2 here, I should have enough intensity in order to break stone, which I do. This allows more customization for what you can and can't decay. In the future, there might be some configs in order to stop decaying certain items, but for now, it's just more so you have some reason to level it up. Decaying one block, though, is really kind of boring, so that's why I added more types of environment decay, which is all of these over here. We have vertical, horizontal, cone, and circular, and all of these are different decay types that you can unlock. So if we go for the vertical one here, we can see it's a very, very ugly icon that I made. I'm not very good at pixel art, so just bear with them for now. To change between the environment decay modes, you have to hold the first ability, and this opens up a wheel. This wheel allows you to select between the different environment types. So we have single, which is what we're using now, and there's vertical. So if we left click, we can see we've switched to vertical decay. And if I walk up to this and then use this, we can see it is doing a vertical attack. Now that was kind of a lot there. The reason for that is because my quirk factor was already very high. So let's go a base of 0, which is what you start with. There we go. That is what the base vertical is. So it just prioritizes going in a vertical direction. Notice if we use this one on dirt, it doesn't actually do anything, or on grass blocks. If I come down here and try to use it on the dirt, it also doesn't work. The reason for this is, again, because of the intensity. So I set my quirk factor to 0 right now, which means we're at the most minimum of intensities. But you may wonder, why can the single decay something like dirt when the vertical cannot decay dirt? That is due to a buff I gave the single decay to increase its potency. So since you're only doing one block, I made it so that the intensity that the single can do is 1 more than your normal intensity, which allows it to break harder blocks faster than this type of decay will. There's kind of a lot that goes into this quirk, so you can probably see why it took so long to do. Let's take a look at some of the other ones. We have horizontal, and this one does exactly what the vertical does, but, you know, just sideways. So if I activate the clear here, it actually goes straight. So horizontal, I took as more digging in instead of left and right. It does do a little bit of left, or it can do left and right, I guess, if we go like this. And that is actually untrue. I just lied to you. Doing these decay types was very, very difficult. A lot goes into trying to break blocks and not make them lag the server. All right, well, that's horizontal. Let's take a look at cone, which is one of my favorites. So let's look at vertical here at this higher quirk factor. It does more, and the horizontal should also do more. Yeah, there we go. It does a 3x3. I'm still tweaking a little bit the different parameters. So the cone should be a more forward attack, sort of what the horizontal is. So yeah, I'll get fixed in the future. It's okay. The last level is Circ, and this one's the most destructive that I have. So if we come up here and do this, yeah, we can see that does quite a bit more destructive damage, and that's just with our quirk factor set to 1. If we get this up to 3, for example, and replace this guy, you can use it to strip mine a little bit, and our intensity is not strong enough to get that, so let's increase completely to quirk factor 4, maybe? It does stop if there's air in the way. So if there's a big cavern here blocking, you know, an air gap between, for example, if I do this and this, if you start the decay here, it will not travel through air gaps. So you don't have to worry about it spreading there. But you can see you can use this as a strip mining tactic. It opens up quite a bit of the ores, and it will not mine ores or decay them, at least at this low of level. Let's actually hit the circular here at this level and see what it does. There we can see it grew up as well, and there it's just revealed a bunch of ores. So it's a good mining tactic that you can use. In the future, I'll add it so it maybe does damage to things, and the different spreads and ways that it can move. Right now, it's still very in progress like the rest of this mod. All right, so those are the environment decay types. We do have some more upgrades over here. The first one is basic control. This is exactly what it sounds like. The unstable decay has actually decreased a certain percentage, so the chances of it destroying your armor have actually gone down. I guess the way it works behind the scenes is that it's actually decreasing the durability that it damages. This has also increased your instability max, so we can actually use Decaying Touch a lot longer before it actually, removes our limbs. It's actually doubled the time that we can use it. The next upgrade is another control training, and this just increases your max control and reduces, again, the unstable decay, so it's not as serious. I think this decreases the durability by another 10 and increases your instability maximum by another 100 points. The next upgrade I accidentally forgot to add a price to, but Decay Rot. Unleash your decay onto the environment around you. All organic life will be destroyed. This is one of the coolest abilities that it has, and unfortunately, this cow is going to be our test subject. If I hold the 2 key, you'll see that it's going to spread out decay from where I'm standing. So if I hold it here, there we go, the decay spreads forward and you have the particle effects all over. Anything that gets touched by the decay is actually going to get decay. So we can stand here and spread it over and maybe hit that cow. He's just outside the range. There we go. He is now decayed. And he's, of course, has a decay effect. The level of the effect actually depends on how close you are to the target. So if I'm this far away and use it, you can see he gets decay 1, but if I'm closer, he gets decay 2, and that's when it actually starts to do damage. This also does decay the trees and living things around. It looks like I didn't code it to get rid of the cherry tree leaves. My bad, that's a quick fix. But it can get rid of trees like this, which I have actually coded. But yeah, this decay is really cool because it has the cool particle effects of where you're using it. I just really like this one. Let me go down here and show you that the quirk factor does actually increase the radius and range that the decay effect does. So we have all of this greenery, all this green space. Let me use this here and we can see how far it goes. We have the smoke particles. You can see it's still expanding, destroying all of the grass. Let's see how far it is. It's hitting that sheep all the way over there. So this is max level decay, essentially. You can see the spread of the decay. The last upgrades are Control Training 2, which just increases our instability, and Master Control, which disables the unstable decay. The Rot ability still takes the instability, but your instability is at its max right now, so you can essentially use it for a lot longer. That is pretty much all I have for Decay. There's a few bugs that we saw here, but I'll fix all of those and tweak some of the other things. And if you have any suggestions for gameplay related things that Decay can do, let me know, because I'd love to add them. The last thing I have to show you, I guess, is the quirk transfer ability. This is a work in progress, but it's just going to be kind of a showcase to show you just a little bit how it works. If I go ahead and give myself the quirk transfer ability, we can see right now it just has a single ability and it's not even an upgrade tree. So here is a rough rundown of how the ability transfer is going to work. This is not finished and I'm just giving you a sneak preview essentially. But pretty much all we have to do is hold the one ability that we do have, which is going to put our ability into a strand of hair. Right now, this turns on a countdown, which it will only actually do in the future when someone right-clicks the hair. But all of my powers are actually stored inside the DNA of this hair. When the transfer countdown gets to 0, that's considered my out of power, essentially. So there we go. All of my powers are gone now, and they're actually stored inside of this piece of hair. Now, if I eat this hair or right-click the hair, I will get the powers back that were stored into the hair. So this is just a rough draft of what I'm thinking. The changes that I'm going to make are that the transfer countdown is only going to actually activate when someone uses the hair. And then also you can't use the hair on yourself because you can't give yourself the same power. But the idea is that all of the powers are transferred from one person to the other. You don't get to pick and choose with this form of quirk transfer. I'll also make it so that the quirk factor transfers over from one person to the other, or at least they'll get a quirk factor bonus. This bonus is most likely going to be dependent on time had with the power. So if you transfer the power without, waiting or using the power enough, it won't actually give you any quirk factor bonus, so people can't just spam it. I've got a lot of ideas for the ability transfer. That's just a little bit of a sneak peek for you to kind of see how it's going to work in the future. And with that, that's the last thing that there is to this week's devlog. I honestly thought there was going to be more progress, but again, this decay thing kind of took forever to get functioning. Sorry, horses. Specifically, all of the block breaking, and you can still see it isn't quite perfect, but I'm working on it, and I'm trying to do my best to get it as cool as possible. Once again, my Discord is down below in the description if you want to join, and let me know down in the comments or in the Discord what sort of powers you want to see next, what suggestions you have for Decay, or anything else that you want to say about the add-on. I love all of the criticism, good or bad. I'm trying to make the best add-on that I can and one that people really enjoy, so I appreciate all of the feedback. That's all I have, so see you guys next week. Bye!